Okay, guys, sorry about that. I'm just talking. And again, I was on mute. Now, I practiced this before I went live and I still did it again. So if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and skip past the part where you can't hear me. Whew, that's all right. That's all right. It's just a little hiccup there. But we are here on day 3. You didn't hear all that, but I said it and I was on mute, so I'm going to say it again. We're here on day 3 of the Dear Me Challenge. Embrace, evolve, and excel. And this challenge is based on my best-selling book, Dear Me, I See You, a collaboration of intimate letters from a woman's heart to the little girl within. I believe that this book is a blueprint for the woman who is ready to address the parts of herself that she believes is ready for transformation. And she's ready to do the work to be able to do that by writing intimate letters to herself. She's taken her eyes off of everybody else, those that are part of her story, and she is totally focused on herself so that she can be able to shift her life. And this challenge is also about, we are in a season of change. We've changed from summer to fall. And for me, I always identify that as there's time for a shift in the season of my life and where I am into where I'm desiring to be. So when I started to think about this challenge, I started to think of some of the words that come to mind for me, and it was an identity shift. When we think about an identity shift, I want you to think of it as, what are you looking into? What mirror are you looking into to be able to identify who you are and what your value is and who you're designed to be, and what rights do you have to change your life? What are you looking into? So I'm going to share just 3 quick words with you that you may not find the definition on Google, but this is what it means to me. And the identity shift is an act of moving closer to the highest version of your authentic self. The Dear Me journey is a journey that we take with grace. It's not to beat ourselves up. It's to really focus in on ourselves and begin to shift how we see ourselves, what we think of ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And by doing that, you're able to address those things that causes you to have a negative look of you, a negative view of yourself, a negative view of what you're worth, your value, all of those great things. And it helps you to be able to make an identity shift in your life. And that's another one of those season changes that we talk about so that we can begin to transform our lives. Then I want us to begin to embrace. Dear Me, I embrace. For me, it's like having a big hug. When you embrace something or somebody, you draw them in close instead of pushing them away. And for me, embrace is the truth. It's something you hold close instead of denying or pushing it away. So when you're in that season of shift and you're having your Dear Me experience, you're no longer denying those things that are keeping you from being your highest authentic self, but you're drawing them in so you can examine them and be able to do the work, take the steps that you need to in order for you to have transformation. Dear Me, evolve. It simply means to develop gradually into better. Now, this journey is not like when, we want to lose weight. We want everything to happen fast, regardless of how we got here and how long it took us to get here. But evolve simply means to gradually get better. And then to excel, to do something better than you usually do. To do something better than you usually do. I love this part of this journey because it's something that I had to give myself permission to do. And I'm hoping that as you are watching me, that you are also giving yourself permission to do these small steps every day to be able to make that shift into your life. All right. So tonight, if you saw the title, it says, Dear Me, gather your things. We are leaving this place. I want you to think about when you're getting ready to move from one house to another, and one apartment to another, one job to another, and you begin to gather your things, the things that you have ownership of, and you start to discard some things. You put some things and you wrap them a certain way because they're precious to you, so that as you begin to shift from where you are to where you're going, you have everything that you need, and everything that's no longer of value to you, no longer important to you, you want to leave those things behind. So, dear me, when you think about that, I want you to think about, what is it in your life that you're not wanting to take into the next season of your life? And we sometimes want to carry everything with us because it feels good, it's familiar, right? It's something that we're used to. So why not carry it? Why not embrace it and carry it on to the next place? Even though when you get there, you may find out that you don't need it anymore. That is the journey of Dear Me. Dear Me is taking ownership of where you are and where you're going, and doing an analysis to say, do I need this anymore? And how is it showing up in my life? What is it making me feel like? How does it make me feel when I think about, I still have this in my life? Do I really need this anymore? So I started to think about the different stages of my life where I've had to give myself permission to take ownership of what I needed to, and then decide what I'm going to throw away. But then there are also those seasons where you have to decide, this is still with me, I'm still working on this, but I'm not going to allow it to define me anymore. So you gather all of those things up, the fragments of your heart, the things that you've been through has caused your heart to feel a little out of sorts, but you no longer want to allow it to control you or to stop you from being your highest authentic self. And so you gather all of these things up, but you put your feet into action. That's the difference this time, is that even though you still are dealing with those things, even though you're still trying to get through it, you're no longer going to allow it to hinder your feet from moving. And I know for myself, many times I have let it stop me from moving my feet. I have allowed it to silence me when I need to speak. Even during this challenge, there are many times where, depending on if people showed up, if people said it helped them, if I didn't feel confident, I would stop doing it and not complete what I said I was going to do. When you are really tired of allowing those things to control you, to stop you, then you begin to pick up your feet so that you can move forward. One of the things that helps me is to do what we call mind mapping. And I'm sure you've heard of that. To begin to write down those things that I may be struggling with. You know, again, this is about you. This is about your journey. Nobody's going to see this. Are you really ready to take ownership of what you are struggling with mentally, emotionally, and begin to see where do they fit in your life and what are they affecting in life? There are many things that I wasn't ready to deal with that was hindering me as a businesswoman. It was hindering me as a mom. It was hindering me as a person. And it is so true when we say you have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired to be able to see change in your life or any situation. And at a point when you're sick and tired, then you begin to address things differently. You begin to look at those things and identify them with honesty by doing a mind map where you're just writing down the words, writing down what you feel, writing down what you're thinking, writing down how this shows up in your life, and asking yourself, do I want this to happen anymore? Do I want this to happen anymore? What am I willing to leave here, and what am I taking with me? And that determines for you, how much does it mean to you? Hold on just a second. I got a comment here. Hey, Kim. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. So I'll tell you this. Recently, I had to decide this for myself because it had been affecting my life for so many years. So, what did we do when we identify those things that are in this season that we don't want to be in the next season? You have to really look at the breadcrumbs in your life. Where is it leading you back to help you identify how you got here? How did you get here? You didn't just arrive here today. There were some things that happened that caused you to be in this moment. And you don't really want to think about that. Nobody wants to go back and think about that. But I had to really look at the breadcrumbs to ask myself, how did I get here? And leading back to sometimes it's that little girl in me that it started in my parents' home, or it carried over into my marriage, or it carried over into me being a parent. And you start to see how it affects your relationships, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your children, your relationship to your friends, your husband, your boyfriend, whomever that is for you. And you have to really be able to identify, I don't want this anymore. What do I need to do for myself to help me to be better for me? Because you think sometimes, because this is spiritual, this is emotional and mental, that it really doesn't have a lot of impact on your life. But I'm going to tell you something, it does. That's good. Thank you, Kim. It really does. It has impacted my confidence for years. It impacted how I saw myself. It impacted how I would continue with things. Like I said, I would start things, and then based on if people showed up, if people said something, or whatever the case may be, based on those external situations, I would stop. And I taught myself how not to finish. I taught myself how not to finish. I taught myself to rely on the support of other people to determine if what I was doing was worth anything. And that's not how we have to transform our lives. But when you start looking at the breadcrumbs of how I got to those moments, it was going back to my childhood and seeing how needing validation, needing that love, needing that assurance that you are protected, that you are safe. And when you don't get those things, it shows up in the current season of your life. And you can ignore it. We all ignore it sometimes. We all want to call it something else cute. We all want to self-medicate. And what do I mean by that? We want to shop a lot. We want to keep getting degrees. We want to make a lot of money. We want to become chameleons in our life so that we don't feel those things. And we want people to see us a certain way. But no matter how they see us, is how we see ourselves. So when you are brave and courageous enough to follow the breadcrumbs back to that place where your struggle began, then you can begin to decide, do I want to leave this here, or do I want to gather myself and what remains of me after I've experienced this, and decide to give yourself permission to leave this place, to leave this place. It shows up when we are reactive when we are dealing with other people. We are really reactive when somebody says something that touches that space in us, that reminds us, well, I remember when I needed validation here. I remember when I needed someone to make me feel better. Yes, but after all these achievements, if you don't deal with the crumbs, you still won't feel that you're enough. Absolutely. Absolutely. When I was saying that recently, I had to identify how those breadcrumbs were showing up in my current season. It was painful because I could see that it was affecting my relationship with my children. Even though you may apologize, even though you may listen and hear them and all this, there's a time when you have to understand that people sometimes choose to misunderstand you. And you have to decide, I've identified these breadcrumbs in my life, and I'm doing the work on myself to change me for me. And I could sit here in this and try and go through all the pain of being misunderstood. But the greater destiny for me is for me to step out of what this has created for me and step into who I'm meant to be. No longer allowing these breadcrumbs or the reactions of others to determine, are you going to be confident? Are you going to be bold? Are you going to step into your purpose? Are you going to do what you know that you are purposed to do, regardless if anybody else validates you, listens to you, understands you, and you pick up yourself literally sometimes to move to the next season of your life? I always believe that dear me is a powerful position for us to be in. Again, nobody wants to be reminded of the stuff they've been through, but in order for you to be your highest authentic self, you must identify those things, because otherwise, when you go into those next seasons of your life, you carry the baggage, you carry the trash. Not only are you carrying the great parts of yourself, but you are carrying the things that no longer benefit you. They no longer serve your heart. They no longer serve your well-being. So when you get over into those places where it's new, you don't feel new because you're still carrying around the trash, the residue of the trash that you figured out on in this season of your life. It was no longer good for you. It was no longer good for you. And as long as you do that, you won't create the healthy boundaries for yourself that people that are close to you may not understand. They may see you as you're wrong because how dare you work and heal yourself when your actions have hurt them. It comes to the place of, I'm not staying here. I'm not staying in this position of insecurity because of the breadcrumbs, because of the experience, because of what I didn't get when I was a child. I will tell you, just this week, I had to analyze and I had to do a mental dump and an emotional dump to identify where I was, of knowing what the facts say about me and deciding that just because those are my facts, they will work for my good, because I'm deciding they will work for my good. Now, if that resonates with you, put a 1 in the comments for me. Let me know if that resonates with you. Kim says, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Whew. This journey is like peeling back layers consistently. And again, I said earlier, sometimes you don't think that these internal things, these internal breadcrumbs affect you out here in this world. It has affected me for many years to be able to confess that I've always felt alone, that I've always felt like nobody had my back, that I've always felt like I had to protect myself because of that. Those are the facts. From following those breadcrumbs led me back to my home as a child. But this week I decided those are the facts of my life, but I'm picking those things up. I'm picking them up and I'm letting them work for my good. I believe this year has been about transition for me, evolving for me in a bigger way for me, because I can no longer just identify the facts, but I had to do some inventory and decide, yes, these are my facts, but they still will work for my good. There is purpose in it always being like this. There is purpose for, yes, those facts being the same year after year after year. And instead of staying on the floor crying, when I finished crying this time, I got up because I gained a new perspective. I chose a new perspective because I gave myself permission to have a new perspective. And though you may not be moving from one house to another, you may not be shifting from one job to another, but your mindset, your heart is moving from the destination where you can't see yourself beyond the breadcrumbs. But now you can see that even if the breadcrumbs don't change, I'm still stepping into the next highest authentic version of myself. And to me, that is a power move. To me, that is a powerful shift in your life, because you cannot be the businesswoman that you are meant to be. You cannot even be the mother that you are called to be until you are brave enough to address all of the mess that sits at your feet, that's around your heart, that clouds your mind based on the things that you don't want to deal with. It's time to shift and it's time to move. But you're the one who has to give permission to yourself to move your feet. I did something many years ago, and I just was reminded of that, called the Bag Lady. I created this challenge called something about the Bag Lady, and I created this image of myself with this big heavy overcoat on, and I had all of these bags of trash, different things that represented the different emotions, the different traumas, the different insecurity, all of this stuff, and I couldn't move with it. Even then, I was working on the breadcrumbs. You have to decide, is it too heavy to be carried to your new destination? Even if it is a fact currently in your life, do you want to carry it with the full capacity that it is to your next destination? Because even though you come to the realization that these things are in your life, that these breadcrumbs are leading you and revealing to you how you got here, you still have to decide, what's the power in it now? How can I live my life despite what this fact is in my life, despite what I did not receive, despite the mistakes I made because of this being in my life? Can you give yourself permission to gather your things and move to the place where you are meant to be? So today we're talking about, dear me, gather your things. We are leaving this place where there's insecurity, where there's doubt, where there's fear, where there's the fullness of what I've been through. Are you ready to leave this place where you can't even take constructive criticism because rejection and abandonment is so loud? The fact of it is so loud and so powerful in your life that you can't take constructive criticism. That when a client tells you, I can't buy from you right now, you take that as a personal attack because that's what you're used to. Can you decide today, I'm not staying here, that I'm leaving this place? And you'll begin to see how doing that work and looking at those facts in a different way and deciding what you're going to do with them and how they're going to show up in your life from this point on. When you decide to do that, then you're ready to leave this place. Sometimes we don't want to leave those places because it's easier to be a victim to them than to say, you no longer control me. We've all had those points in our lives where it was easier to be a victim and show up as a victim than to do the internal work that we needed to do that would cause us to move our feet from victor to overcoming so that we can get to that place of excelling in our life. Kim says, woo, this is powerful. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So guys, that's what I have for you today. I'm excited. Kim, thank you for your support. I feel you on my back supporting me. Thank you so much. Talking about, we're leaving this place. The control comes back to you because of the things that you realize that got you to where you are, of not being in your highest authentic self, when you begin to identify where do you go from here, the power is in your hands. It's in your choice to decide to give yourself permission to do the next thing, to help you to excel, to help you to evolve, to help you say, you know, even though I have some work to do, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm choosing to shift my identity. Your identity is in looking into the things that have identified you as not enough, as not good enough, as rejected, as abandoned, as not like her, not like this, not good enough, I don't measure up. Those things, looking into those things, you still get the power to decide what is its power in your life today. So, dear me, gather your things. We are leaving this place. We out. We are out. All right. All right. So that's all that I have for you tonight. I appreciate you for being here. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you for watching this. I appreciate you. Leave me a comment so that I can come back and say hello to you. And I will be back tomorrow night, Wednesday, for day 4 of the Dear Me Challenge. This has been amazing. This has been a really personal week for me. And just like you, I'm giving myself permission to look at the facts in my life and determine you're no longer going to hold my feet steady. I have things to do. I'm called to do great things. I'm powerful in who I am. When I open my mouth, the things that have been holding me back lose my power, and lose its power over me. And that's the same thing that I want you to be able to identify for yourself. So join me here tomorrow, 7 p.m., either on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll continue our journey. See y'all soon. Bye.